So the first problem that we're going to be solving here is create that simple counter component. Now, let's dissect the problem. We want to create a counter component, right? That displays a number and increments or decrements depending on the button click. All right. Pretty self-explanatory. So you have to display the count. That's number one. So how would you go about doing that? You have to create a button element that anytime I click on it is going to append to the current state of that value for the counter. So the initial state should be 0. And then if I click on the decrement, it should subtract 1 every single time. So the first thing that we want to do, we want to initialize our state. So we need a value that's initialized at 0, right? I'm going to create my state. And when you're using functional components, this is how you write things out. So here I have my count. It's set to 0. And we're using TypeScript. And I want you guys to get used to using TypeScript. So I'm going to set this as a number. This tells me that this value will always be a number. Now that we have this already set up, the next thing that we need to do is display the current count. All right. So how do we go about doing that? So we have this initial div here. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to add an h2 tag and I'm going to type out counter. And here we use JSX. I already have my count, which is state, right? And this should be 0. All right. So when I go back into my app, you could see the counter is 0. This is correct. So if I come back here and I set it to 4, for example, you can see the counter is 4 now. Now we could create 2 button HTML elements, right? So here you can see that the increment of this, we're adding +1. So if I go back to my app, you can see that I have this button here already laid out. When I click on it, it adds 1 to each individual click. Now, when I go back to my code, how do I go about subtracting it? You just take a copy of this and then you paste it in. And instead of +1, -1. Now that satisfied this requirement to decrement. Go back. Now we have a plus and a minus, right? And then we can subtract from that. And it goes back to 0, right? So we could plus, minus.